I feel like you hold some really important keys that you've embodied, living in realities of unity and creating those as long as probably you've been alive this time. And so, and I just feel you have some important concepts that I wanted to bring into this work and sort of lay it in the foundations of what I'm trying to create. And I know I'm going to cry because you make me cry every time I see you. But.
Well, and it's in your foundations, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can only see what we already know. And, you know,
Right.
It's like, we can all see 85 different kinds of snow if we needed to, but we don't think we need to. So, you know, we just see snow,
Yeah.
right? And in this emergent world, our hearts are knowing there's a whole lot more.
Right.
And we all have our own unique antenna, and we're seeing more than the little narrow limited vocabulary
Right.
English gave us. And now more and more of us get to tease out what are these elements of who we really get to be.
Exactly.
And so
yeah, and what is really, how are we unique and essential? And so I see you as somebody that is incredibly unique and essential. And so, gosh, we haven't even talked about your history, but I might even just write up a little bio so we don't, I kind of want to stay on this track, but I think the coolest thing is that you chained yourself to the rock, obviously. But this time is really to honor you and your life's work, and also to bring your unique and essential view and design into my audience, basically.
well, and as you bless me with that, just a reminder that we all are, you know, and no one's quite, you know, it's like, I remember hearing about a young teen who was like you could tell he was a challenged, troubled teen, but at one point he started writing these poems, and he said, when I was young, you asked me, what did I dream to be? And as I grew older, you said, oh, get real, you've got to do, are you going to be this or this?
Right.
And so you said I should dream, but you want me to fit into these, you know, you're amputating me
Right.
from my dreams. And so
Right.
to me, we're all unique, and yet we've all been cobbled
Exactly.
down through the culture that we inherited, the culture doing the best it could, and yet now we all get to bring out our gifts and
So what I thought we could start with, because something you and I both really share is love of rivers. And I wanted to just have you describe, if I couldn't see through my eyes, what would a river look like? Like, how would you want me to see a river through your eyes?
I thought of taking blind folks down the river, and I remember them teaching me to see. And you know, it was 55 years ago that a river began teaching me. It helped me came of age, and I still feel so like English doesn't have any words for me to capture the magic, miracle, friggin' beauty that what's going on? Whoa, this place is really nice. And it just kept taking me deeper and deeper. And it's a place where, you know, I broke 7 oars my first year because you got to use strength, right? And then eventually going, oh, I get to dance with these powerful forces. And so it tutored me so kindly and gently most of the time. Every once in a while I'd rip an oar out of my hand, but what wasn't I looking at there? And so it was like the Zen master who just sort of slaps you awake. And that, you know, I think of, you know, we've all seen people smile, but on the river, I had never seen people smile so deeply and so richly. It's like there was something beyond words that touched all of us. There was something about being in this, surrounded by magic. And so even if it took me 50 times to start seeing this incredible canyon,
Right.
because I was used to not seeing neon, and eventually it wasn't blaring like neon, and yet the subtlety and the beauty were all around. So even a first-time visitor was taken out of the boxes and knowing that you're not supposed to connect instantly. And anyway, so on all dimensions of the canyon, to the river itself, to the micro miracles, every time you could stop and take a look. So, and that my sense is there was this deep connection to life's flow that, again, wasn't part of much education that I got. And suddenly I was flowing in this, in this much, your picture on the wall with all this dancing flowing together. It's like, that, I didn't know that, and yet I started learning that it's all connected, and it wasn't there. It's, we're all the same, and we're all interconnected. So each person, the river was such a great equalizer for, all these professional people who you couldn't talk to, but on the river we're all stripped down, and not only by our clothes, but by the fear and the exhilaration, and all of a sudden we're with each other's humanity, not with the facades of who are you and how are you doing, and then being in this liquid miracle surrounded by verdant beauty. It just...
That's a great picture. Home, is that what you said? Yeah. But, so one of the things my husband introduced me to first about your work is the concept of the through line. And that's something that I've told so many patients about and so many colleagues, and I can see it. Like when I close my eyes, it actually, even when I'm not on the river, I can think about the future, and it feels like a magic pathway that I can just take now. So I was hoping you could describe about like how that came to you, what it is, and also how you see it in times like we're in right now, where there's a lot of polarization and a lot of fear.
Yeah. Well, again, the river taught so much, and the thing about, there's so much river lessons, but one of the most poignant lessons just came through me 10 years ago, and I found myself looking at, okay, class 1 boating, flat water canoe, easy to. Class 6, you don't run because you die. To run a class 5, you can easily die. So to run a class 5 river, only the most expert boaters run a class 5. And to be a good boater, you have to be able to read everything. So you have to read the gargantuan hole that can eat, you and everything, under the water, the shredder rock that'll rip things apart. And you've got to know those big things, and you've got to see the little things, because if you don't see the little things, they'll spin you into one of the big ones. And the challenge of being a class 5 boater is you have to see all of those, and then you have to put all your attention on the through line. Where is the current most flowing? Because the river is always going downstream. And so where is the most benign way and the most powerful flow that I can stay aligned to? And if I focus on the obstacles, they become magnets. So how do I put my attention on the through line? And the metaphor for me is humanity is in a class 5 rapid.
Yeah.
And we have never been here before. No river runners ever run this class 5 rapid.
Right.
So it's right on the edge of our arts. And humanity, most of humanity is in denial. Oh, it's not really a problem. Aren't they going to take care of it?
Yeah.
And those who are looking are going, oh my gosh. And they're panicking because they know that all of life is on edge in this class 5. Everything is threatened. And we have very few mature enough, we haven't yet cultivated our maturity to go, yes, 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 and where's the through line? And where's the through line? How do we do that together? And the corollary is that if we're paddling together, when somebody on the other side of the boat does something I don't understand, instead of wasting my time getting mad at them, I have to trust they could see something that I couldn't. So there may have been a rock in their way. So they didn't take a stroke because they couldn't.
Right.
So how to not waste my time fighting them, and vice versa. If I make a mistake, instead of everybody on that side of the boat wasting their time yelling at me, now we're going backwards because of my mistake. And we are all in the same boat together. Exactly. How do we put our attention on the through line? Now looking over our shoulder as best we can, and keep breathing as best we can, keep honoring each other and trusting that we're each doing the best we can, and tease out of each other, because we when you push these edges, you learn lots. So we're in this class 5 together, and we all get to learn, and we get to tease out each of our own strengths and gifts. We get to trust each other's seeing, because we need all of our seeing to make it through the caprice that is ahead of us.
I love that. And that we're in. And the more I started talking about the through line with my patients and really focusing on that, the more actually it became fun. And it was like, oh, we can build skill with this. Like if we have this as a concept and we trust that we're all in the same boat, and we trust that people are genuinely good, though maybe ignorant and misguided or traumatized in their own lives and making poor choices, or what we can see to be poor choices, then we can just focus on this line together. And then how does it become fun? Like, how do we develop skills? How do we develop savvy? Like, so that's kind of where I've been, because with that concept, I think when COVID hit and all of that, it was hard to see the future. And it's changing a little bit now, but I think still it's hard for us to see, like, how are we going to make it through these times beyond COVID? How is the earth going to make it through? How are the social injustices, going to resolve? Are we ever going to live in peace as humanity? These sort of questions.
Well, you just gave me the gift, the reminder that when we were first starting Friends of the River, we had a meeting and there were 20 of us, and we were all, and by the end of the half day, we had come up with 6 mottos: save energy, save water, save rivers. And someone came up with the 7th, and she said, and have fun doing it. Yes. And I forgot the other 6, and I realized that was the most important.
It is the most important.
And what draws most people to rivers is it's so fun. And even that scariness of running a rapid, you learn. And so learning to relax and have fun doing it. And I think you beautifully said it. And I've not remembered to add that on to my through line story, because rivers are about fun. And all of a sudden you get to embody all of these things. And so, we've never been here before. Clare has a line, my lovely wife has a line that when she first got a transmission that put her on her path, it said, the experiment. And she goes, oh, what are you experiment? And back at her came, call everything you do an experiment, because you can't possibly fail an experiment. And humans have this great fear of making mistakes. Right. Well, there's no mistakes if you're just doing experiments. So how do we have fun learning how to read the through line? Right. Do it together. We'll make mistakes together, but support each other and nurture each other to bring out our best and develop the skills we'll need to dance together through these amazing times we're in.
And then celebrate when we get to the pool under the rapid before the next rapid comes. Definitely.
Sometimes some rivers have less time to celebrate, so you get to pull into even tight little eddies to do that, because some rivers, and it feels like we're in times where it just is continuing to draw us in.
That's a really interesting, when you say tight little eddies, so just to explain for someone who might know, an eddy is a quiet area behind usually rocks or on the side, sometimes in the middle of the river, that you can, because since the river is always in flow, it's tricky. Yeah. So there are these places to get out of flow, and those are the eddies. But I'm thinking about like just that big rapid and that through line. And then that's a new thing for me to think about, is like tight little eddies, like slip behind a rock. Have you thought about that with the through line?
Well, I have, only because, again, rivers are all different. A lot of the rivers we love the most are big drops and a big pool.
Right.
Big drops and a big pool. But I remember going by the Payette and it was like, whoa.
Oh yeah, we did that.
There are no big eddies, right?
Right.
There might have been tightest eddies that you could barely hold on to, right? So I don't know where humanity's at. This is a class 5 rapid we've never been at before.
Right.
Many of our fellow passengers don't even know they should be holding a paddle yet because they're, oh, but I was upstream. I could just take pictures of everything and look at everything. And now I'm needed? No, not me, because I don't have these skills.
Right.
So yes to celebrating in between. Yes, yes, yes. And sometimes we may only get a few moments to celebrate.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yet yes to celebrating, whoa, look what did we just learn here?
Right.
And okay, and our skills are stretching even if we don't have time to celebrate them. With every sacred breath we're taking, we're learning. And to be able to honor, oh, even as we bumped in with that experiment, oh, that didn't quite work, so I'm gonna do it in a slightly different way next time.
Right.
And be kind to ourselves and be kind to everyone we're sharing with.
Yes.
And celebrate even if we're all on the floor of the boat, but we survived that.
Right.
Get up and start all over again.
Yes, yeah. And I think about like my kids, taking them rafting, and we have this saying in our family, hit the meat, which is like you go down the biggest part of the rapid, right? And then my niece got tired of the meat and all the splashes, so she's like, hit the broccoli. But what listening to you talk, what I'm thinking about too is really taking time to think about how, well, first of all, letting expectations go of how we're supposed to run the rapid, right? Yeah. And that some of us hit the meat, some of us hit the broccoli. I remember times where I just look from eddy to eddy and I try not to pay attention to any part of the rapid, but just go into those little eddies. Yeah. And sometimes I walk around. Yeah. And that's just an interesting thing to think of with the through line, that maybe the through line might be portaging and walking along the side.
Honoring to me, there's usually 1,000 ways down. There's one main line usually, or 3 main lines, but there's 1,000 ways to go, and that includes portaging. And so read the water as best we can, use our instincts as best we can, and know that we're going to get pulled into, even portages can sometimes be much more horrendous than even the waterfall.
Absolutely.
So, and sometimes more dangerous.
Yes.
So it's a...
and just I think respecting where people feel comfortable. Right. Yeah. And how they want to go through this journey.
Yeah. Well, and inviting and enticing everyone to step beyond, because we inherited thinking we're smaller and we're vastly more. And so how do we, to me it was amazing watching people go down the river. It's like, I could die, right? And the river was usually much more forgiving than they would have imagined. So it was a brand new experience. So sometimes with new experiences, we go, I can't do that. And yet, what's that line of, we're in these most extraordinary times, and it almost look impossible. And yet, if we were called to be here on whatever level, we were given more talent than we knew. So even if, Marianne Williamson has that line, we far more fear our light than our shadow. Right. And when we love being our shadow because I can't do it. You're better at it than me, and all, the othering, and me stepping into my voice. Right. Oh no, they have a better voice than me, or they sing better than I, they dance better, and again, we're at times that are calling all of us to step into terrain we've never been in before. Right. This class 5 rapid, humanity may not make it. And no time like the present to learn how to have fun doing it, do as best we can, and be aware of our limits, and then be ready to transcend what we inherited of everyone telling us we're smaller than we really are, and be ready to pay attention to our own unique gifts.
Yeah.
and do the best we can and no mistakes.
Right.
Just an experiment. Oh, wow, that didn't work very well.
Absolutely. But one of the things it talked about was an ideology you created around heart politics. And I've never even heard of that. So I'm hoping you can explain that.
Well, it may just be an earlier version of the through line. You know, what, again, that early lesson from the river is that when I was fighting the river because I didn't know what to do and I was learning, you know, I was big and strong, so I could break oars when I didn't do it right? And then I eventually learned to dance with it. And so heart politics came from, again, learning to walk the corridors of Sacramento politics, and then eventually Washington. And, you know, I just wanted to be on the river, right? And suddenly the river's life was on threat. So I was suddenly walking these corridors, and a class 5 river felt like nothing compared to going to these corridors and trying to learn how to speak a language. I didn't have words for what the river was, right? So I had to learn the facts and figures of economics and hydro and water and irrigation. But I couldn't speak. I didn't have words for what had drawn me to be courageous enough to try to learn these corridors. And what I learned was that, again, most of these politicians are doing the best they know how. They inherited a worldview, and some were the most idealistic people I have ever met. Some were the most scuzzy, corrupt. Most of them in the middle were doing the best they knew how. And what I learned is, again, when we showed up with heart, then that allowed people to listen more. So if we came in ranting and polarizing, people lived up to our expectations. Yeah, you're right, I'm a jerk, I'm not going to listen to you because you're a jerk. And so to me, you know, heart politics was learning that when we tap into the depths of our knowing, we're vastly more powerful. Have you run into Wangari Maathai? Wangari was the first woman to win the Nobel Peace Prize for the environment. So Wangari was this Kenyan woman who, the first PhD woman in East Africa, the first woman to be tenured at her, university, and when she divorced her congressman or parliament member husband, they said, no, you can't run until you get rid of your tenure. And then they said, no, you can't run anyway. And so she had nothing. And so she started the Greenbelt movement, and she helped women around the country plant trees. And eventually she helped all across Central Africa. She was helping women and villagers plant trees. So Wangari was this just force of nature. And that's why the Nobel Prize could honor her for creating peace, even in these patriarchal worlds. And at one point, I'm at the I'm on the board of Friends of the Earth, and I'm at Friends of the Earth International, and we're at the beginning of the Rainforest Days, and we're in the Commonwealth Building. And so it's 3 stories of buildings, and these powerful men are speaking about, we've got to save the rainforest. And, there's these top scientists and all these top people. And Wangari is the last speaker. And she goes, oh, welcome to all of you, and welcome to our visitor from the rainforest here. And yes, we even have to make the men feel like they're a part of this. And she just kept speaking, and she was the only one that got a standing ovation. And what I knew is presidents and kings would bow before her, because she was so connected to this sacred earth and to all of our humanity, that she transcended all of everything else. So to me, this heart politics was when we don't come from our hamster wheel trying to think, but when we come from a deep connection that is our unique connection to this world, and we speak from there, we're much more powerful at helping move our world in the direction that the human soul wants to go anyway.
That's beautiful. And I also think about how that manifests in my work with my chiropractic and cranial sacral. One of the ways is that I work to help people live fully in their bodies, like embodiment, because a lot of people don't even feel connected to their bodies. And a lot of women have trauma, and so it's even scary to be in their bodies. So it's just something I pay a lot of attention to, and I really feel like that embodiment piece is so crucial to really being able to stand in our sovereign truth and you know. Yeah. So it's just a piece that you make me think about. So the other piece I'm really curious about with you is you were born at a time when boys were supposed to be a certain way, men were supposed to be a certain way. I think in your generation, probably like fathers weren't really supposed to like hug their kids, and they were the breadwinners, and moms cleaned the houses and didn't fill up the gas tank and didn't have access to the finances, and then boys are, you know, supposed to be tough. And I'm just curious because as the mother of 3 sons and married to an incredible man, very similar to you in many ways.
What an amazing soul you
Yeah. I just want to pick your brain and your experience, because you're coming from a different generation. It's easier for my sons to be able to be loving and sensitive and also strong. But just sort of, have you thought much about like masculinity and kind of your experience with that?
Clearly not.
Good, I'm glad I could stump you.
Right. You know, I love the line from Bucky Fuller that your children are born somewhat your elders, because they're born into a more mature world.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't just on my parents' shoulders, I was on their generation's shoulders, right? And your children are born on my generation and your generation's shoulders. So all of the, you know, successes and mistakes we've made, they get to see. And so they get to pick and choose a little more. So, you know, it does feel like I was raised at a time when everything was questioned. You know, I mean, I remember in college going to the first encounter groups, and I realized we got to talk about our feelings. And I remember my parents didn't have any of that. Yeah. They had never, there was nothing in their lexicon allowed them to say, but this is how I feel.
Right.
And so, you know, I was gifted some of that, and it was the beginning of, well, you know, I mean, women were beginning to have, you know, women's groups.
Right.
I mean, you know, it's like guys weren't smart enough to know we needed them.
Right. Right.
And yet, you know, just hearing the beauty of what you're doing, it's like, to me, we're all a part of this incredible flow towards an evolutionary healing. And so role modeling, you know, I think I looked at role models of men and it's like, oh, yuck. Yeah. I mean, in fact, I looked at role models of marriage and go, oh, yuck. Yeah. I'm not going to try that, right? And then eventually I'm going, oh, no, we can create what we want to. And the river was a stunning gift. As sort of a gangly, awkward kid who was on the margins, the river was the first time that I was part of a clan. Right. And there was one guy that hugged us all. And from my days in school, I didn't think guys were supposed to hug each other. Right. But whoa, there was this connection. And before long, all of us, it's like I'd never been part of a community. And we were all on the, we were all learning how to dance with these powerful forces of the river. So the river gave us this cutting edge, because, you know, on the Stanislaus, we had to actually stop and look at many of the rapids. You know, eventually we didn't need to do that, but wow, they were still new to all of us, and we were all learning to read the water, to see what's right in front of us. Right. And we'd never been trained to. So
I love that.
That, you know, learning to see what it can be to be a human, and you know, Tom breaking our fears of whatever, you know, guys aren't supposed to do and do. Yes. So, and every person was a part of that tutorial, you know. So everyone brought what they did, you know, their rough edges. You know, that if you look at a stream high in the mountains, the rocks are very sharp and jagged. By the time they get downstream, they get really rounded in edges. Well, we're slowly learning to round our edges. Instead of chipping off my shoulder at you, we're learning to dance together and learn to flow together. So, and I think, Clare has a beautiful reminder for me that each one of us has a feminine and a masculine within us, right? And so some of us has body parts that mean we're masculine, some have female, but we all have the masculine and feminine within us. And my sense is we're still growing.
Absolutely.
Women, as women learn to find their voice from their true grounded feminine, it helps men who have inherited, well, you got to do it this way. And we can tell it hasn't worked very well, right? And yet people still cling to the old because we don't know what the new is yet.
Right.
We don't know what's around the bend. I like that, wrap it up there. So let me repeat it rather than go to this new one. And so to me, we're at a time when we get to discover what it truly is to be a male in this world and how to truly be in connection with. And again, this whole masculine, feminine dance, we're going to get to learn how to tease out of each other, to revere each other and to tease out the best, rather than, oh, you guys are still jerks, whatever side of the fence you're on, whether it be feminine and masculine or whether it be left and right. It's like, okay, learning to listen deep and, to me, maybe some of the deepest challenge we face is learning to pay attention to the deepest, most quietest voice from my experience of what's mine. Because we get the cacophony of what we should and what we should and what's normal. And the more we can learn to sink our roots into, oh, what's mine to do? Who do I get to be? And how do I bring my gifts forward?
Right.
And not be so sensitive and nervous that, oh, they're going to judge me. It's like, they don't like what I'm doing. That's too bad. Gee, I wonder why you don't. I mean, how do we gain curiosity rather than judgment?
Yeah.
And rooting ourselves seems like the only way. And the river was a great place in tumult to learn to root. Right. And so people drawn to meditation. We're learning to be in our bodies. We've never been taught to pay attention to those things. So, what do I feel? What's in my gut? What's my heart feel, right? And paying attention to it, honoring it, nurturing it, growing it, and let's dance forward.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And what I love too is with the polarization that we're experiencing right now in this black and white, like I've never seen the world in black and white. Luke and I call it shades of gray. We always, and then I see even, I love the gender as a continuum. And there's these things like polarization doesn't last too long in nature. Something breaks. Right. And then usually what comes out is like this full spectrum of being. So I just wanted to take a moment to honor that because I feel like that's such an exciting, we're not there, we're getting tastes. And that's the thing is if you track realities of unity, if you track things that are positive and hopeful, then you'll see it.
Yeah.
But our news isn't telling us, and it's not the dominant narratives, but they're definitely there if you pay attention.
They are all around us. I'll say that, the challenge to me we face is that, the media, politicians are terrible, the media is terrible. Well, Socrates or Aristotle said, a people have the government they most deserve. I remember hearing that going, no! And I'm going,
Oh, interesting.
How much am I participating?
Yeah.
Well, I vote twice a year. That doesn't, no, I vote every single day with my dollars.
Yeah.
And I vote every single breath with my anger or my love. Right. So I'm voting every day, and the politicians reflect that average.
Absolutely.
The media hasn't learned how to cover the emergence of who we're becoming.
Exactly.
And we are not yet a demand for it.
Right.
If we were a demand for it,
right.
I want to know where the good news, I want to know where the heroes are.
Right.
Who are the heroes and sheroes who are helping change their
Absolutely.
part of the world, their passion for, if we were a demand for that, but all of us are a little, oh my gosh, did you hear what they're doing? And so if it bleeds, it leads because we vote for it with our
right.
eyeballs, with our, whatever, the Google's, they're only making money on where eyeballs go, and so people are learning how to grab our eyeballs.
Right,
and so
absolutely.
until we become a demand for media that reflects our emergence, and that's all out there because we've got to deal with the racism, the polarity, and all of these other issues. Until those things get looked at and resolved, they keep staying. Even if they're sort of under the surface, the pimples come out, but there's something sicker underneath. So.
Absolutely. One of my friends says we've forgotten how to crave as humans. And just craving, love, craving life, craving unity, and that as we put our attention into, what we want to bring in, because it's here, but we need, the more of us who pay attention to it, the more it becomes established as the reality.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could give advice to my sons, which what that would be.
I think you're living it. You're being a living model of it.
But from you.
Yeah. To me, we're at this sacred time when everything we've inherited, everyone did the best they could. And now is a time when, instead of feeding the fear that's kept me going, I now get to, the old Cherokee story? So there's a Cherokee story with the old elder is sitting by the campfire talking to the young ones. And they say, there are two wolves within inside of me. One is the wolf of anger and greed and taking in all of that. And the other is the wolf of love and generosity and sharing and connection. Which one will live? Right. The one that I feed.
Yeah.
And so we're at this time of what do I feed?
Right.
And fear is really seductive. And do I have the courage to pay attention to my own shadow and alchemize it and step in? Right. And do I have the courage to pay attention to what's the deepest voice within me? What's my unique calling? Right. No matter how much the news said this is the reality, there is so much more reality.
Exactly.
And paying attention to that which we know, that which is meant to come out of us. And even if, I still haven't heard from my son, but when he was 7, he had an experience and there were no adults he could talk to about because no adult was talking about that. And so it's like he was deprived of knowing another reality that he had clear access to.
Right.
Claire has access to other realms that I haven't run into in America very much.
Right.
And so there's all these other antennas that we have access to. It's like that river that tried to teach me something that I still don't have words for.
Right.
Paying attention to what's my soul know, what's my heart know, and to have the courage to dive in and follow that path, and then to do it together, and then to do it with joy. And we inherited polarity in language, and we now get to create something different. Right. And bring that out of each other and tease it out of each other. And when we catch ourselves fighting with each other, like some boys can do, sorry, Gar.
Yep.
How do we catch each other sooner and just go, oh, we're doing that again,
transform
how do we transform our old habits and morph them into what's really being called now? Because we get to show up at this sacred time in our collective evolution. We get to show up. We have to. We have to, but we get to.
And we can't not.
And we can't
is how
not.
I see it. Yeah. We can't not.
Well, it's an interesting paradox of we get to, and do we have a choice? Well,
we can't not.
So the urgency, I don't know the paradox of having the urgency without fear.
Right.
So the urgency is, if we, as we don't wake up, and as we're waking up, we get to wake up.
Right.
And it is rather urgent. And so I learned early on in River Days, I could motivate people by fear, but they didn't come back again.
Right.
So this challenge of what motivates all of us by love, and the urgency.
And the urgency.
From love.
And stay focused.
And stay focused. And whoa, okay, we made it through that.
Yeah.
Where's the next through line?
Right.
And what do you see?
Right.
And let's do it together.
Right.
And don't waste that time. Yeah, let's play together.
So this is just so great, and I now know why. Well, so many parts of this conversation help me know why this is happening now and not a year ago. But one of the things that happened in my life last week is, so I've been working with my body work for 5 years, really 5 or 6 years, upgrading from what I call OS sphere in the cells, because I can pay attention to the cells, and I know what armored cells feels like.
Wow.
And I understand the adaptations patterns, and I can feel that in the physical body. And so one of my main focuses has been to upgrade from OS sphere to operating system of love. Wow. Which has been wonderful and rather like a great journey. And in many of my both myself and my patients, I feel like, boom, done, check that off. But what happened last week is OS play came in. And that was so special because something just came in, and it was like, what if we just had fun? What if you just made decisions because it sounded fun? And if we think about kind of that urgency piece and that staying focused, like a part of me thinks of, again, about being in that river, and it is fun too. And there is play. And
even if it's a little scary, it's fun, and it does require full attention.
Full attention. Full attention with our little micro eddies.
Yeah,
So take a little rest in, get a breath,
Yeah.
have some downtime, and then go back in. But yeah, that's
well, so appreciate your gifting the world new operating systems, and going from fear to love, that's night and day.
Right.
And going from love to
play
and I'll say joy.
Yes.
It's like,
why
not? Why not?
Yep.
Ooh, this is going to be interesting. I mean, it's back to Claire's, everything is an experiment. Oh, okay. Hey, that didn't work so well. I mean, we all fell out of the boat, so let's try it again. But we rescued everyone, and so let's try it again.
Right. What came in for me a few years ago that are like my go-tos all the time is, what if? Why not? It's like, what if we could create a world that everything operated on behalf of life, and people felt the connection, and we could feel those relationships, and we could feel how we're stronger when we're in connection instead of separation, and all of that. Like, what if? And then, why not?
And it's happening all around us.
And it's happening all
it's
around
like,
us.
The media doesn't know how to cover who we're becoming.
Right.
Right.
Old model.
Your shifting operating systems, more and more, it's like, I mean, all around the world. I had the privilege of coordinating Earth Day's international effort, and it just blew me away. These heroes in all these countries who are trying to change their part of the world, sometimes on the village level, sometimes on the nation level, and more people are following their heart's path, and daring to go against money and governments and special interest. And it doesn't make much news because the other things, and we all love the disempowered things, right? So it's easier to watch the sports.
Well, it's part of OS sphere.
Indeed. Yeah.
It's what we know.
Yeah, and let's watch the sports team bash their helmets together, because we only know bashing helmets. And what if I get down and go, hey team, we're gonna have teams where we both help each other get goals.
Right.
Did you ever see there was a little YouTube about a girls' baseball team, and it turns out one team was winning, and finally one gal gets up and she hits the ball, and it was, anyway, but she immediately sprains her ankle, so she can't make it around, so her team can't win. The other team pick her up and carry her around.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're at a point where the heart yearns for win-win. So we've all loved sports, we all love politics, And now we get to...
And that's our innate nature. That's what we have until
Yes.
until it's conformed out of us, right?
Yes.
The children show that clearly.
Right.
Yeah.
I heard about some kids in Canada who developed new rules for Monopoly. And when one party started to really win, they played it so that, boom, everybody started winning again. So, yes, Monopoly was set up a certain way, and yet kids know there's a better way to play Monopoly.
The rules are changing.
Yeah.
The rules are.
And it's happening all around us, and we can't see who we're becoming. So, beautiful.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited that this is how we started. And I just deeply appreciate you and your work and everything you bring to the world.
Well, I got to.
Thank you. And you give the best hugs, but I know everybody tells you that.